Now, before I go any further, the reason I'm picking Danny Wiseman to compare you to is you guys have an awful lot in common. The upper body rotation and a few other things, but just certain things that you guys both do that really make me want to focus more with what he does. This is when he was healthy and still bowling good and no injuries. So now, watch what's going to happen. He's going to take his first step. Now watch the second step. The second step moved out of the way of the ball. Right in line there. So if I backed him up, basically he's led the ball inside and walked right around it. Right there. This allows the swing to go straighter back and more underneath the body instead of around the body. We want the body to dictate the path of the swing. This gives us more leverage. Well, once he gets to that position, watch what happens right here. He's able to allow the body to get right back in line and go right through the face without any extra movement. So now, that gets the body the way that I'm looking for, so that we can get the leverage back and get to where the sensitive heads in the competitive oil patterns or sports patterns aren't so touchy for you. This will help you make better choices in your equipment and in your adjustments on the lane. So now, let me give you one other look and then we're going to go into something else. So now, right here is Chris Barnes when we were bowling in Germany. Watch the same basic thing happen. Do you see the ball going to the right or do you see the ball going underneath the body? Notice right here, I don't see a gap. There is no twisting. There's no moving the ball around you. You're moving around the ball. Kind of put it this way, if you're walking down the road and you see a telephone pole, do you move the telephone pole or do you move you? Obviously, you move you. So the swing is the telephone pole. In other words, that's what the object we have to get around. So watch what's going to happen. As he goes into motion and the upper body rotates, that lines the ball right up underneath his head. So he can get here and stay into the proper position and complete the release. This is what makes him so good because he's able to create so much leverage that he doesn't get a bad read in the front part of the lane. As much as the game has talked about the back part, well, you got to get to the back part through the front part. So really the key of the game is still leveraging the ball through the front part of the lane. Okay, the other thing I want to work on with you basically is you have way too much knee bend in the setup, or I'm sorry, in the slide. Having so much knee bend in the slide is actually putting the weight back here. If you break Norm down, Danny down, I can use 1,000 players. If you really break down their knee bend, Norm, as much as I hear he is a classic player, there's the knee bend at the point of release when the ball is out of his hand. That's pretty obvious. But watch what happens. He's going to let go. Then he lets the knee bend come in. If anything, I would rather see this cut in half, your knee bend, so I can get your upper body more over in here. Right now, you're so far back of it that it's taken away the flat spot at the bottom of the swing. Even if you broke down Danny Wiseman, if you look at the knee bend, it's really not all that much. It's a small amount, but that allows the weight to be more centered on the knees. That's really where you get the most consistency and balance out of the lower body. So there's no trick I can give you. It's going to have to be something that you physically do, and that's to cut that knee bend in half at the point of release so that I can get the bottom of the swing to be more flat. Let me explain more about the flat part of the swing. Now, the flat part of the swing is not flat to the approach as a lot of people think. It's basically an angle from the swing shape that the ball travels along without going up or down. This is what is called the window of opportunity. In other words, it gives you a lot more time to make your release without making mistakes. So here I've got Danny and I've got the ball outlined. Watch what's going to happen. The ball is just going to follow that line. Well, what that does is it gives him all the time in the world from the back leg all the way to the ankle to correct or to make the release. When you have too much knee bend, you can't do this. It always makes it to where if you try and do too much, you end up hitting up on it. If you don't do enough, you hit down on it. The only way that I know how to correct it is to take the knee bend and cut it in half. So really, we want to work on setting that swing, getting the proper image of where that swing goes. That swing follows that right foot. Then we want to make sure that we get that flat spot at the bottom of the swing by cutting the knee bend in half at the foul line. Now, I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but you have a good game. The things that I see that are creating problems is the swing, the way it's being taken and put in position, and the knee bend. What I would like to do is I'd like you to work on this a little bit, and then I'm going to do a follow-up. Once you feel comfortable with this, I'm going to do a follow-up at no charge. It will be a short lesson. It won't be like what I'm doing right now, so I'm going to be honest about that. But I want to see where I can adjust the leverages a little bit more. But really, I can't get to that point until we correct these two things right here to begin with.